I'm Evan Knappen.
And I'm Teddy Knappen.
And welcome to Gun Lawyer.
So
Teddy, what's up, man?
Well, just flipping through Ammo Land from John Crump, and I never even heard of this story. Like, I'm going to be very honest. Like, I did not know this happened under by the ATF. Like, the Arkansas lawmakers are demanding the DOJ investigate the ATF raid on Bryan Malinowski.
Malinowski. Are you talking about Malinowski? Yes.
Malinowski. When reading the article, I was shocked because I remember from like all the criminal procedures of like what you would do, and I'm like, I was getting flashbacks to watching the Waco documentary from reading
Teddy,
this. Like,
you gotta let me explain I'm familiar with Malinowski's case. So Malinowski was a total law-abiding guy, no priors, no issues, law-abiding guy. And he lives in, I believe it was Alabama, and he was a gun collector, and he'd go to gun shows, and he would trade for guns, sell private sale guns, etc. Okay? Collector. And what happened was as you may recall, the Biden bull garbage that we were dealing with over trying to turn people into dealers who weren't dealers. Well, ATF apparently believed that Mr. Malinowski was being an unlicensed gun dealer. Now, here's the thing. He is a professional. First of all, as I recall, his background was that in air traffic, with the airline, air traffic control, I think it was.
He was looked like he was the head of the Clinton airport of.
Here's a guy who's professional head of an airport that has his hobby of firearms, as many of us do. And Alabama is a private sale legal state.
I think it was
That's
Arkansas.
what he was doing. Or Arkansas. Was it Arkansas? Oh, yeah, yes. Arkansas.
Or the proper term, Arkansas.
Well, it was illegal it was Arkansas, and it was legal to do. And what happened was just outrageous because they claimed he was in a business of selling firearms without an FFL. Okay, so that's the charge. Let's, whether they could prove it or not prove it or whatever, that's what their claim is. And what happened was ATF and Little Rock police got a search warrant, and they came to his home at 6 a.m. to look for evidence of wrongdoing. ATF breached the door with a battering ram. And I think according to his wife, Malinowski believed that these were intruders breaking into his home at 6 a.m. And he fired at the agents, not realizing, of course, what the hell's going on. He hit one in the foot, and law officers there, they returned fire, shooting Malinowski in the head, killing him, dead. Okay? So here's what the lawmakers, they sent a letter to DOJ about this, and the letter reads, listen to this. Awakened by the sound of the breach, Mr. Malinowski retrieved a handgun and encountered an armed silhouette entering his home. He fired toward the intruder's feet. An ATF agent immediately returned fire, striking Mr. Malinowski in the forehead and killing him. Mrs. Malinowski was standing only inches behind him. Now, this is activity by ATF where they are going after what is essentially paperwork crime if it even qualifies as crime. They bust down his door at 6 a.m. How come this was done as a no knock for this guy? Who knows? Crazy. He ends up getting killed. And yet, here, Teddy, you didn't even hear about it. Yet, we take cases with and hear about cases with ICE, right?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty and good. Where with Renee Good, she's trying to run down allegedly, right, this officer where she went there to protest. She was there knowing there was going to be agitation, knowing there's going to be trouble, going there. Same with Preddy. Okay?
Who actually was fighting with the police.
Fighting with them and going there. That's not what happened here. We have a guy in his home, a law-abiding guy in his home, who at best has paperwork violation, a licensing violation, at best. Not even that is necessarily legitimate. And he ends up shot in the head over the actions taken by ATF. And you don't hear a peep about it in the lamestream media.
The other part that really, there's two pieces that stick out, three pieces actually stick out to me. Number one, the knock and announce. Now, I remember, criminal procedure, we talked about, it is very important on the knock and announce for the officers. They waited 23 seconds. They knocked on 23 seconds, break the door down. They also had enough time to tape the camera, the doorbell camera, and no body cams, because apparently their excuse was low funding. Not enough funding for body cams, even though they're supposed to have them.
They had enough money to buy tape.
Yeah. They had enough
Somehow.
money to...
Yeah,
they had enough...
To cover the doorbell lock, camera, to cover the door. Look, if they're there as law enforcement, don't you want it known to this guy who has no priors, who's not a problem? Don't you want it known that it's law enforcement there? You want to make it crystal clear. Hey, government, law enforcement here. Boom. You want to be seen on the ring that you're law enforcement and not 6 a.m. house hot invaders.
The other factor is there's clear... there have been other encounters with the ATF with this exact same scenario. You know what they did? Knocked on the door, said, "Hi, we're with the ATF, and it's the Ring doorbell camera there." That situation, they'll either say, "No, I'm not talking to you," or "We're here to arrest you." Okay, that's it. They had so many other encounters where this could have been, but instead they decided to go full Waco SWAT team and assassinating this man. It's insane.
It's insane. And, and their history of activities, I mean, we know, Waco was just horrible. They had a guy inside of the facility that could have easily made that encounter completely nonviolent. Instead, way back in those days, with Clinton and company, they did it to try to make an example out of this guy's church, etc. And of course, it was all to save the children, which all end up dying because of what they did.
And then try to
with
cover it
the
up.
fire, and then tried to cover. Oh, they bulldozed the scene as quick as they could afterwards.
Yeah,
and because the stuff they used lit the place on fire.
My favorite was do you remember the hearings where had you could clearly see the Dems trying to justify the ATF's murdering people,
right?
And the Republicans fighting, and I love the one.
And don't forget Ruby Ridge as well.
Yep, Ruby Ridge.
I mean, over a shotgun barrel that was where they entrapped the guy, literally entrapped the guy, ended up paying like $3 million in civil damages for their actions there at Ruby Ridge. Okay? So this kind of rogue insanity, it's fine as long as it's on gun owners,
Yeah,
no problem.
But this is the key that really bothers me the most, Ed. The biggest question they're asking from the lawmakers, the political motivation. The question remains is whether the timing and aggressiveness of the operation were influenced by the impending rollout by the ATF's final ruling of the engaged in the business of selling firearms.
Right.
So imagine if right now, and I always have to tell this to all those out there who are trying to say, Republicans and Democrats did the exact same thing or should have just voted for Kamala Harris. Imagine Kamala Harris now with their current ATF and they enforce that law where you and I are going to be assassinated in the night by armed guards bursting in accusing people of being
Armed,
unlicensed. It's
the armed
disgusting.
agent nonsense of doing this. Luckily, President Trump and his administration are taking steps now to remove in the 39 rule proposals, remove that absurd, doing business expansion that Biden did, so that basically you sell a gun, you're considered a dealer under the old Biden rule. Okay, ending the so-called where even going after dealers themselves by saying one error, and you can lose your FFL completely. I mean, these activities are just outrageous. What takes place there barely gets any attention. But if you're out there causing problems regarding other wrongdoers, that being illegal aliens that are themselves having broken the law, and you're there trying to protect other lawbreakers, and then you go to this cause a conflict, the media blows that all over the place. But here, this guy in his home gets shot in the head.
It's also, people don't talk about that comparatively to the ICE tactics. The ICE tactics, what they do are actually far much more safer, and they do everything they can to not escalate and just go full SWAT team and shoot people
Right.
on that. The two extremes were someone trying to run you over with a car, or the other individual who is attacking, fighting with them, and then during the scarcity of when in the chaos of all of them trying to hold him down, the confusion, he gets shot. That's the clear difference. Here, let's just say, for the sake of argument, justification. All right, he fired at them, they fired back. Looking at everything prior to where there was barely any no-knock, they taped the cameras, no body cams, and just went into the night, and the wife says, I think there is an intruder. By the way, their warrant said not a dangerous threat, not a dangerous criminal.
So they're even told. So why are they taping? Just act normal. Say, law. We're here. We're law enforcement. We have a warrant. Let us in. We have a warrant. I would bet you anything. As long as they made it clear they had a warrant, this guy's going to be okay. You have a warrant. Come in. Instead, he's under this impression that his house is subject to a hot robbery.
Yeah. By the way, it's dark. So where was the badges? Anything just to say you bust down the door
Right.
and yelled police on that front, and you got SWAT teams are trained in that engagement where you're going in to the situation, clearing rooms. If you're gonna go in that hot, I mean, where's the justification for that? Where the guy had no priors, nothing. Like it's insane.
It is. And I visited the site at Waco. If you ever get out there, they have a memorial site. It's, of course, not official, but they have it there, and you can pay a visit. I saw the actual warrant for Koresh for the raid on Waco, the actual search warrant that they were using. And one of the lines that stuck out to me was where they said they observed when they had their inside man that he had subversive literature there. This is actually in the warrant, in the affidavit for the warrant, that he had subversive literature. And the subversive literature written in the warrant was Shotgun News and Soldier of Fortune magazine. Did you know that that's known as subversive literature?
Wow.
SOF and Shotgun News. Yeah, that was Janet Reno was the Attorney General back then. What oof, bad news, bad news. And those incidents, you think they would learn from these other horror shows that they had conducted, not to pull that again. But once Democrats are pushing it, especially as you point out, when they want to make an example, they will try to do something like this to push their agenda. I'm sure that was part of their motivation. We've seen them try to lay groundwork anytime they want to push an agenda. A great example of it is the so-called, which you don't hear about anymore, after the incident, as you recall, Fast and Furious. So with Fast
Oh
and
yeah.
Furious, they're providing arms to the narco terrorists. So we, the U.S. government, through them, give arms that supposedly had trackers or something to arm the bad guys that end up killing a federal officer later. I think it was Terry was his name. End up
Yeah.
killing Terry with guns supplied by the government. Now, why were they doing this? Well, they were pursuing a gun anti-Second Amendment agenda
I think it
with a
was the steel,
theory.
the steel pipeline was the
Well, the
term.
iron
Yeah.
pipeline they were
The
calling it.
iron
What it
pipeline.
was,
The iron
they
pipeline.
at the same time that they had tried this Fast and Furious operation to try to somehow demonstrate that guns are flowing from the U.S. to narco terrorists. That's when they also put in the multiple rifle reporting requirements on the border states. And that's also when they changed the 4473, where you have to either admit or deny your Hispanic heritage. This was all part of this uh, approach that was the iron pipeline idea that blew up in their face. So they had to abandon it after Fast and Furious, but that was their evil plan back then. So it wouldn't surprise me that this was part of their propaganda campaign, and it ends up with this guy shot in the head.
If I
Just
recall,
outrageous.
the current, I think it was the head of the operation. It was during some interview where he was talking about it, about how we plan to put GPS trackers into the firearms to see where they ended up. And did you? No. Like just
What
handed the guy, just handed them over when the and
Yeah,
then when they found it for some murder or some crime, they're like, oh yeah, they're and traced the serial number. Like, oh, that's one of ours. Our bad. Whoopsie.
yeah, yeah. So as long as the U.S. government was arming narco terrorists, that's okay, you
Yeah,
know,
I know, right?
and putting guns into, you see from the left, and this even reflects in what Southern Poverty Law Center. Well, we don't really have enough racism, so I guess we'll pay racists to make sure, and hence you get Charlottesville and all those things happening by a creation by the left to create the issue for them to then create more intrusion, more laws, more of
Well,
their agenda through by doing these operations. This is their MO.
take it a step further, Dad. You have
Mm-hmm.
to remember when it comes to the left, and this is just they recruit the mentally ill. I'll give you the best. 45% of liberals describe their mental health as poor. 45%. That's right from a
I think
YouGov
that's
poll.
low. I think that's low.
It could probably is higher, but this is my point. They recruit the mentally ill. They scream and call people Nazis, fascists. They're gonna go after your family. They're doing everything they can.
Pedos,
Yeah,
smear with
everything.
everything they can come up with.
And
Smear, smear, smear. Make sure you populate the internet with all the smears. Make sure you have the paid protesters pushing the smears. I mean, their propaganda machine is second to none.
And then when one of them who's mentally ill enough to say, yeah, let's do it, and then tries to run down a hallway and gets shot down by an MP7, thank you, Secret Service, or another individual who tries to shoot at our president multiple times, different
Mm,
ones. We're on
mm.
the.
Oh no, no,
This
no,
is.
no! Now they
Yeah.
want to blame somehow it's President Trump's fault.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what?
It's so disgusting. Like,
Well, and it's not just Democrats, but also, as you call the black pillars. They don't help the situation
they're
either.
I like what Steven Crowder calls them. They're the woke right, the horseshoe right, where they're saying they're all the same, man. They're all the same. Look at the inroads that Trump has made and imagine, do you really want to give the other party that power where they'll send in a hit squad to kill you because they think you're illegally selling guns? That is what you want? No, thank you. Do not hand it. You're a bunch of accelerationists thinking that we're going to really make change. No, you're handing power to the individuals that want to destroy us. That is insane.
I mean, look back just under the Biden administration, what we put up with curtailing freedom of speech, with the conspiracies that are shown to be absolute lies against the president and against Republicans. I mean, the stuff they did is unbelievable. And I guess you saw Dan Bongino talking about the burn bag that
Oh yeah.
has all that information in it that they wanted to burn that somehow ended up not. Somebody, I think, didn't want that to get burned. Somebody there
Yeah.
wanted the truth to
You
get
also
out.
have to
So,
remember the Twitter files, Mark Zuckerberg admitting that he was pressured by the Biden administration to censor, and the pressure by
right.
the Democrats in charge to censor Republican and conservative voices, they YouTube censorship, all big tech censorship, all up and down. And now you're saying, no, no, let's give this back to the left. It's no, you're ridiculous if you think that is actually a good strategy. So.
Yeah. Well, Teddy, let me tell you what's going on this week at We Shoot. So, We Shoot has Smith& Wesson Bodyguards, the 2.0 Performance Center Carry Comp. This is a pretty hot gun. It's ultra concealable, which is very important in New Jersey, and it has upgraded Performance Center tuning and an integrated compensator that keeps recoil flat and control high. They also have the Radian Ram Jet and Afterburner barrel and comp, which is really the ultimate Glock upgrade. And that transforms that platform to having reduced muzzle rise, faster follow up, and next level shooting dynamics. They also are offering the Daniel Defense DDM4 Mark 18, which is a short barrel legend with military roots. And that gun will deliver unmatched reliability and maneuverability in tight spaces. And you don't want to miss Carly Morgan. She's the dirt bike, all American girl, bringing raw energy, independence, and fearless spirit to the We Shoot lifestyle, proving once again that freedom isn't just protected, it's lived. And by the way, We Shoot is running a Mother's Day special promo, and they have some great deals going on there. We Shoot is the place. It's an indoor range, conveniently located in Lakewood, right off the Parkway. It's where Teddy and I shoot, and we get our training there, and you can get your training there. Get your necessary CCARE certificates for Jersey Carry. Get any of the beginner to advanced training. We Shoot really has it all. It's a great range, great place. We love it. You'll love it. Check out WeShootUSA.com. WeShootUSA.com. And let me also shamelessly promote my book, New Jersey Gun Law, the Bible of New Jersey Gun Law. It's over 500 pages, 120 topics, all question and answer. There to guide you through the matrix of insanity that we call New Jersey gun law. It's all done in that question answer format. You'll get answers to your legal questions out of that book in writing by me. That's right, an attorney who has dedicated his life to defending law abiding New Jersey gun owners and trying to make it so we don't commit GOFUs because Jersey is loaded with them. And protect yourself, man. Knowledge is power. Go to evannappin.com. You'll see the big orange book there and get a copy today. Hey, what else, Teddy, is on your mind that you've discovered?
So this one came up recently as everyone's favorite I am Spartacus Senator Cory Booker. Yeah, he one of his staffers decided to bring his carry into the Capitol, and God, every time I see that individual, I think of. Didn't you debate Cory Booker?
I did.
Like, what was it?
I debated Cory Booker a number of years ago on TV. He came in when we were arguing about Jersey gun laws, and they brought him in as big surprise for the anti Second Amendment arguments. And I'll tell you, up front, he's a very personable guy, like personable, talking to him and friendly, but just. Of course, the anti-gun arguments always fail, and his were no different.
He's a Gavin Newsom. He's slick.
Right.
Okay, I'll
he's
give
slick.
him that.
He's
Fine,
slick.
whatever.
He's slick. But you know, unfortunately, their agenda is that of being anti our rights. They love to claim that they are. Oh, I support the Second Amendment. But it's always that but, and the but is but I want to ban all guns or whatever. But they somehow support the Second Amendment. But they've never met a gun law they didn't like. So much for that lie.
I always think of the left. They always try, if they ever took power and packed the court, they're just going to go to the Second Amendment and go, look, that's a comma. See that comma? That means we can pass whatever we want. Like,
oh well, it's a living document. It's a living document, and in modern society, there's no reason why anyone needs whatever. Fill in the blank.
Fill in the
blank.
If
needs got anything to do with anything.
I know, like the ATF rolling up on your household trying to assassinate you.
Well, what do you need a sports car for? What do you need a supercharged bass boat for? What do you need? We're not a needs-based society. We're not each according to their needs. That ain't us, okay? Needs ain't about it, all right?
Well, the socialists
got
want
nothing
to
do
there.
with it. Yeah, and they do.
But
and that's a growing movement. You hear the term Democrat socialist. The only difference between a Democrat socialist and a socialist is a Democrat socialist is trying to impose socialism by way of our elections and the political process to make us socialist. And making us socialist is the same. Yeah, communists.
They're communists. They're just communists. You had Bernie Sanders honeymooning in the USSR, and you had Sean Penn praising Venezuela, and what was it? Jane Fonda and Cuba praising the Castro regime.
Just recently, Jay Powell there, the legislator, she was caught trying to figure out how they can get oil past the U.S. Sanctions and embargo to Cuba. Isn't that great? Just try to undermine our foreign policy. Isn't that cute?
Some might say that would be aiding a foreign adversary, but right?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, but somehow they just keep on going with this stuff with our enemies, with folks that are opposed to what has created the greatest standard of living in the history of humanity, and that is capitalism.
Yeah, no, and but going back to it, so Cory Booker, his staffer, he was a retired law enforcement officer. He had the gun on him. He went into the Capitol. He was arrested last year, and of course, the charges were dropped. without any consequences lingering. So, and
Mm.
now the debate on whether he could carry or not, I
He
went
may
in
have
the
been
cap.
retired law enforcement. I don't know if Leosa applied in that
I
particular situation. A law enforcement officer
so
safety
I
act for
pulled
retired
it
law
from
enforcement.
yeah.
Yeah.
I pulled it from the U.S. Capitol Police. Their rules are a all weapons are prohibited, even if you are a retired law enforcement
So I don't know
officer or have a
how
permit.
it got dismissed.
So the well, you know
Mhm.
why
Yeah, of
exactly,
course.
but
We can kind of
it
figure
could
it
have
out.
been the minutia of he had got the staffer had gotten permission. Apparently, if you meet certain requirements, you could have, but it didn't seem there was no mention if he even met the requirements. Doesn't matter. They just walked away the charge. It's right up there with Mister Pull the fire alarm because I don't understand how to open a door. What was his name?
I don't
Uh,
remember, but yeah,
yeah,
that guy. Yeah, right. Like you
yeah,
believe that.
yeah, charges dropped, but and this
Yeah.
is the thing that it's always about the elitism, where you have here's someone extremely anti-gun pushing the anti-gun agenda right here, newest article right from them. U.S. Senator Cory Booker leads colleagues' renewed push to establish safety standards for firearms in an effort to save lives. Pushing a new bill right here, and where they're going to add the Firearms Safety Act, where it creates a Consumer Product Safety Act that was first passed in 1972. It
Yeah.
corrects the gap in their
The
view.
gap, the so-called gap. What it is they want this mechanism in the government so that they can ban guns via consumer protection. The idea is to abuse consumer protection laws, and you see Jersey doing this stateside, where they're alleging uh, the consumer protection violations under state law against legitimate dealers, gun makers, etc. So beware. This is yet a further angle that they're pursuing to take away our rights. The movement of gun rights suppression is go at every angle, whether they can link guns to a healthcare problem, whether they can link guns to a consumer protection problem, whether they can, anything they can somehow tag it on with. That's what they try to do to expand their suppression of our rights. It's classic tactics by those that oppose the Second Amendment.
Well, it's what they're trying to do is create, and I've coined this term, or some I don't know who else coined it, but I like it. Gun deserts, because the left were trying to push the stupid argument of a food desert, which you can have food delivered very easily. From what they're doing, going after gun dealers in Jersey, making extremely hard to even open a shop, I'm taking this term, gun desert. They're trying to create
Yeah,
gun deserts, making it extremely
right.
hard to get a firearm because they know they can't win on the legislation and our rights, so now they're just going to sue our rights away by going after the very
And what's
people.
interesting, one of the regs being put forward, actually a combination of them federally, will, I haven't read the text, but apparently what they're looking to do is have 4473s computerized, and then you'll be able to purchase a gun online, and then the firearm can actually be delivered to your door. Now, I don't know how that might work under Jersey state law, probably not able to do it, but in many, many states, it will be feasible if it first goes through a dealer, and they've recently allowed guns to be shipped even via the post office. Of course, it's regulated how to do it, but there was at one point a complete ban. That's no longer the case. And if they get this electronically set up and they change the rules, they could allow it because right now, for example, you can buy a suppressor and have it go directly to your door. And they've set up a network of dealers in suppressor legal states, and these companies like Silencer Central, etc., they're able to process your NFA form online. They have an interface to the e-forms for the federal government. You can do the prints by way of a computer, and then once everything gets approved, you're literally mailed your suppressor to your door. Now, of course, not in New Jersey because New Jersey has a state ban on suppressors, but that is currently being challenged as to its constitutionality. So this is where we're at. There is still good hope. I still am optimistic seeing these fundamental changes take place federally, and we're seeing victories politically still happening. The fight is full bore in the courts. Don't lose hope. We are winning slowly but surely. We're gaining ground in many of these areas, even though these problems are still there that need to be addressed. But the good news is it is a new day when it comes to the ability to have the tools to fight for our rights. And that's something I've seen over 4 decades of gun law practice, my friends. I see it. And I remember way back when I started, you couldn't even find a law journal article that spoke about the individual right to keep and bear arms. And frankly, thanks to the NRA, let's give credit where credit is due. Early on, they pushed the academic side of researching the truth about our Second Amendment rights. And that became critical in the Heller decision and decisions that have followed from Heller, having that depth of historic, scholarly research on our rights, which 40 years ago did not exist because it had been suppressed and ignored. Look, I started my practice with a I became an attorney, and I had the honor of working for the very first firearm law firm in America, which was Benenson, Cates, and Hardy. And there was no such thing prior to that of a firearm law firm. And back in those days, I told other attorneys, "What kind of law do you practice?" And I'd say, firearm law. They go, "What? What do you mean firearm law? What?" They wouldn't even know what it was. Couldn't even wrap their head around it. And now, of course, with the Supreme Court decisions and this growth of challenges, etc., you see a completely different view and understanding of what firearm law means and its importance, and the practice of gun law is accepted. I remember at one point in the old Red Book, they call it, where they list lawyers by categories. And I said, "Hey, I want a listing of firearm law." They said, "We don't have firearm law." I said, "Well, make the category firearm law," because it didn't even exist as a practice area, right, that you would focus on for your practice. So there's been a lot of advancement. The fight is, of course, on, but this is where we are. It is interesting looking back and seeing, and I do believe that we will succeed. We will succeed. Truth is on our side. Truth is absolutely on our side. And the day when we no longer have to be victims, but can be defenders, and not just our right to keep and bear arms being respected, but our right to self-defense being respected, because that too is protected by the Second Amendment, our right to defense. And don't take that lightly, because throughout the rest of the world, particularly in the formerly Great Britain, you use a gun to defend yourself, you get arrested, charged, and prosecuted for using a firearm to defend yourself, right? That's where our rights are critical, not just having the hardware to do it, but also the legal and lawful ability to do it. And our self-defense laws, though, still need to be changed and worked on. Matter of fact, Teddy, we were talking about that, weren't we?
Yeah. One of the big things we were discussing is, as well as back from the previous podcast, one of the previous episodes, we were talking about the right of defense of property, where I felt that there should be a change in the law. I know you always said life wins over property, but
And
there
it does
needs
under
to
the current
be
law.
correct, but there needs to be a deterrence because right now heavy amounts of robberies, carjacking, the car theft. It's one of those where I always look to Jeff Cooper's quote. I always think to that quote. The criminal does not fear the police. The criminal does not fear the courts. The criminal must learn to fear the victim. That is the
Right.
only way I can see us solving this issue of crime, to deter the individuals, knowing, oh my God, if I do this, I might get my head blown off. And
So you're right. And that brings us to the GoFu. The GoFu, of course, the gun on our F up, where we look at mistakes and things to be very concerned about, where others have paid a dear price. And that is important when it comes to self defense, because self defense in law is known as justification for the use of force. And what a lot of folks don't realize is that self defense or justification for the use of force is an affirmative defense. And when something is an affirmative defense in law, it means the burden of proof initially shifts to the defendant. So if you use force, deadly force, you use that, even though you may say, hey, it was self defense, the burden of proof is on you to be able to prove that you were reasonable, and that reasonableness of your force gets determined by those 12 people who aren't smart enough to avoid jury duty. So you better be very reasonable. And the problem is, if you depart from that knowledge, where you are essentially guilty until proven innocent, and you better realize that if you pull that trigger, that burden of proof is, under our current laws, on you. Now, that's not everywhere, believe it or not. In Florida, for example, they have put that burden back on the state initially before they can even proceed with a prosecution. They first have to demonstrate that you were not justified in using force, at least to the degree of making their initial charges. But in New Jersey and most other states, it is still an affirmative defense where, in essence, you're guilty until proven innocent. Make sure you know the self-defense laws. Make sure that that your fear was reasonable. Make sure it was justified under the laws, because if not, you're going to pay a very steep price. Hey, this is Evan Knappen and Teddy Knappen reminding you that gun laws don't protect honest citizens from criminals. They protect criminals from honest citizens.
Gun Lawyer is a Counterthink media production. The music used in this broadcast was managed by Cosmo Music, New York, New York. Reach us by emailing evan@gun.lawyer. The information and opinions in this broadcast do not constitute legal advice. Consult a licensed attorney in your state.